Do you know how many journals I've started? I have like 2 pages written and then, stopped because I think
Yes.
I've seen it as like, "Oh, this is a place where I just like dump the shitty things that happen." And then it's like, "Ooh, I don't wanna look back at that."
It's data from your life that is categorized in a way that helps you see and changes your perspective on your experience.
The one thing that's kept me from doing it is that, like, commitment that I kind of, like, make for myself that's
Mhm.
like, "Okay, I'm gonna start this, I'm gonna do it every single day. I'm gonna do it morning, I'm gonna do it night, I'm gonna do it weekly," like, whatever, like, commitment it is at that time, I'm like, "I'm in, I'm gonna do it," and then I never do it.
Mm.
So, with collaborative journaling, the wonderful piece about this is that you get to do it with someone else. You get to have that accountability partner, similar to like going to the gym, you'll have a accountability partner. It's the same way with the collaborative journaling. You're not on this journey alone.
I think you might have converted me, Royce.
Well, good.
Living
Living
a
a
full and
full
well
and
life.
well
This
life.
is put together,
Grow.
authentic.
We feel it.
Take
Take
care of
care of
ourselves.
ourselves. Hello, and welcome back to the Wishing You Well podcast, where we help you navigate your wellness journey each and every week. I'm Amy Albero.
And I'm Katherine Van Eyck. We're both licensed therapists and talking to you about everything wellness on our podcast. And today we have a special guest. Royce Cook is here to talk about her brand, WellGrl, all about journaling.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Royce, and I'm the founder of WellGrl, and we are a wellness brand that's pioneering collaborative journaling using the roses, thorns, and buds technique.
I love that. I cannot wait to talk more with you about that. On our other podcast, Reactivity TV, we use roses and thorns in a very different way. So we'll see if there's overlap. But I'm super excited to chat with you, and so we will get into all of that. But before we dive into you and Well Girl and journaling, we like to start with a self care check in every week. It's always good to kind of check in with ourselves and see how we're doing and what we're needing before we kind of move on with the rest of our day. And so we love to ask one another and ask our listeners how you are, what self-care is looking like for you these days.
Yeah. These days, self-care is lots of journaling, right? Right on brand. It's a
Be
lot
the
of
brand.
journaling. Yeah. I've been journaling a lot and it's been really therapeutic and grounding. So I've been enjoying that. Lots of skincare, of
Mm.
course, massages, being in nature, just really trying to ground myself, center myself during these what can be chaotic times.
Yeah. But so you're doing a lot of journaling right now. Is that just because it's just become part of your self-care practice, or is there just like something greater going on that you feel like this is the time to really dive into journaling more?
Yeah, it's usually, and always been a part of my practice, and it has been for a few years now, just even, at night or in the morning, just making sure I take time out to do some gratitude journaling, roses, thorns, and buds journaling, just to start my day right or to end off on a positive note of just reflecting and pausing and taking that time for myself.
Yeah. So important. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, you're gonna be so cool to talk to as we get into our conversation today.
yeah.
Um, Catherine, what about you? What about your self-care, your week? How's it going?
So I feel like I took a note out of your self care book from last week, back to copying you with self care. Because, Royce, I just like kind of piggybacked on a lot of self care of Amy's. Maybe that's just what I tend to do. I don't know. I'm inspired. You're inspiring, Amy.
Oh, thanks.
Be flattered. um, so last week, in our last episode, you talked about how you just kind of had all of these treats. You had Venetian hour of self care, and I feel like I haven't quite hit Venetian hour, but like the desserts are coming. It's like definitely a dessert. How could I like be so um metaphorical like you were last week?
Platter, desserts.
Oh, okay. You know what it kind of feels like? At some of those restaurants when they like roll out the desserts and you can like pick one and you're also like, that's kind of gross. I hope those are fake because like how long have those been sitting there? But like it's kind of like that. It's like, ooh, I want to do that. Ooh, I want to do that. So on Thursdays, what I've been doing is seeing this functional range conditioning slash yoga like slash massage instructor. She's amazing. That's all I have to say. Her name's Ellen. Shout out to Ellen. It's an hour of time where I get to be with her. Actually, my husband takes my daughter and like plays with her or sleeps with, like has her sleep on him, whatever. So she's nearby, and I just have an hour with Ellen. It's like stretching, it's like yoga, it's like she puts her hands on my neck, it's like and my back and these different spots. Like she knows exactly what I need. So I've been doing that weekly, which has been amazing.
Wow.
I don't know why I haven't talked about that yet, but that's a must, and that's been great. And actually I skipped a Thursday a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh my god, I need Ellen. So that's been a big dessert. Another dessert was actually dessert. Like I feel like last night I was like, I want to make a mug cake. Big mug cake person.
Yum.
And I did that, and that was delicious. I could keep going,
Mhm.
but I'll stop with those two.
Yeah. Well, that's nice to hear, because I feel like so much of, I mean, I imagine like, right, as a new mom, like so much of your self-care has been very like functional and been very like almost like rehabilitative in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, or
Um
just like
yeah.
survivable.
Yeah, right. And so
Yeah.
it's nice to hear that you're doing more of these like treat type self-care experiences.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good.
Yeah.
How about you? Are you piggybacking on your own self-care? Are you still treating yourself
Mm,
like crazy?
no, I'm not. The treats have come to an end. Well, so two things I am really focusing on this week. One, I guess they're related, but I feel like I am at a place where I'm not like feeling awesome in my body. As is like often the norm for me. So I'm just like really trying to pay attention to like my nutrition in a really intentional way, and just, just journaling a bit about my food experiences and like how I'm feeling when I'm eating certain things and all of that stuff. So I'm just really trying to dial in my awareness to like what I'm putting in my body and why, and how it's making me feel. So that's definitely a self-care piece. And along with that, I've been trying to cook for myself as much as possible, which if you're watching us on YouTube, you see Catherine's face. Roy, so I'm not a cook. I'm just not good at it. Yet I'll say yet. I guess I'm going to work on it, but I'm really trying to, again, like in that spirit of just trying to be really intentional about what I put in my body, like just wanting to like make sure, there's not excess crap going in to make me feel like crap. So I'm trying to like manage as much as I can by cooking for myself and leaning into that.
Yeah.
What are you making?
Oh, God, don't ask me that. It's so embarrassing. Like I don't know how to make things, Catherine. I'm just
Ah,
making like just like I don't know, like a lot of like stir fry type things, or like ground turkey with
Mm.
all sorts of mixed vegetables in the mix,
okay, so it's like simple, but like
very simple.
tasty.
Yeah,
Sounds
I'm like
tasty. Yeah.
at a page. I don't know where you are in your home cooking journey, Royce, but like I'm still at the phase of like I don't know when proteins are fully cooked. So like unless like that's
Okay.
why I lean on ground turkey because
Yeah.
it's like you can tell.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
gray and ugly looking.
Yeah.
So that's my current, protein of choice. Or I'll like make meatball or like find ways to make ground something into a
Mhm.
something else. That's what I'm
Yeah.
doing right now.
Impressive.
I'm
Yeah.
trying.
It's definitely a start. I think that's really good though. You're starting, you're doing it.
Yes. Thank you. I'm trying. Um, but we'll see. I'll tell you where I'm at with it next week and see if I'm still here. But for this week, it feels good.
Why is that the change this time? Because you said you often come to this point of being upset with or like being uncomfortable in your
Mhm.
body. Like why this time were you like, okay, this time I'm going to try cooking?
I think a big part of it is so Royce, you don't know this, and I don't know how like clear this has been for our listeners, but I am spending a lot more time in Miami now, and my husband and I are like not living together as much as we typically do because his world is up in New York City and mine is mostly down here. And so he is the cook in our home. And so because I'm by myself, I need to fend for myself in this way. So I just have never had to think about this before. I've had like a big luxury of having like an in-home chef. And now it's up to me if I want to
Yeah.
eat.
Yeah.
Is he giving you a lot of directions or are you just winging it?
No, he still likes to hold the idea that I wouldn't eat if he didn't feed me, like that. And so I think he's in denial that I like have this newfound independence from him.
Ooh.
It's not as fucked up as it sounds, I promise. Again, if you're a listener of our other podcast, you might understand the banter that we have. But anyway, so okay. Um, so let's shift into our episode today. I just want to take a quick pause to tell you that Revive is hiring. In our Miami and Pittsburgh offices, we have full and part-time W-2 and 1099 clinician positions available, and this includes both postgraduate and associate level licenses, in addition to fully licensed clinicians. In our Connecticut offices, we have full-time, fully licensed W-2 clinician positions available, including clinical supervisor opportunities. If you are interested in working for a company that values community, work-life balance, and your personal and professional growth, then we want to meet you. Find a link to our website in our bio. As we already said, we have Royce here, and we want to know all that you know and all that you do as it relates to journaling and helping people just explore their internal world and connect with others through journaling. Like there's so much about what you're doing that sounds really exciting. So
Yeah.
you gave us a brief intro when we started, but can you just tell us more about you and what brought you into this?
Yeah. So I started WellGrl last January, and I had just finished my master's program, feeling very burnt out from that. And I wanted a way to reconnect to myself, get back on my own wellness journey. So I would source all of these journal prompts, affirmations, and quotes online. And I would use that as a way to self soothe and to just learn about myself. And I got the idea of, I'm getting a lot of benefit from all of these resources and journaling inspiration. And I'd love to share it with other women that might be feeling the same way I was, very burnt out and overwhelmed and just not knowing where to start when it came to journaling. So I created a newsletter and I called it, Sunday Scaries or Beat the Sunday Scaries. And I would send it out every Sunday and it would have all of this, journaling inspo. So quotes, prompts, affirmations. And I, sent it out every Sunday, not thinking that it would bloom into the community that it is now, but it did. And I have loved helping so many women start and stay consistent with journaling ever since.
Awesome. I know when you were sharing about your journey into journaling that you hit on some of the barriers that we as therapists hear about like what makes journaling hard. So definitely want to get back to that in a second. But it sounds like your self-care became a little bit of your not a little bit, but a big part of your like career. Like how do you find the balance of those two things of it remaining self-care while still being like now something that you do
Yeah.
for
I
work?
always tell myself to just have fun with it, trying to relieve the pressure of, growing a community and growing a brand and a business. I think a lot of times it can be overwhelming and there's so much to do all the time. And a lot of it is, a lot of risk taking, a lot of doubt and uncertainty. So I just remind myself that, remembering my why for doing it, why I started, what I want this to be, and taking the pressure because if I stress about it or if I'm not enjoying it, I'm not going to be able to put out my best work and I'm not going to be able to support my community the way I want to or they need the support from me. So I just think of my why, the bigger reason, the heart and mission behind the brand. And that helps me to remember that this was all, in support of wellness.
There's something really cool about how you describe the way that you started this. And it reminds me of how Amy started Revive. It reminds me of how a recent guest of ours, Ginny Noche, started her nutrition business. It reminds me of a lot of women, a lot of people we've talked to who really get into their line of work around wellness based or like stemming from an experience they've had. Um, it's pretty amazing. I feel like that's like it gives you that much more of a drive behind it, that you have this passion because you had this underlying like need for it yourself, that all of a sudden you felt like I'm really fulfilled by this and this is really special. How can I share this with people? And you created that. That's so cool.
Right. Yeah. And it's that wanting to help yourself, but also help others. And it's that unexpected benefit when you start something for your own, emotional well being or, mental health, that it can help and impact so many people. And you get to share that with them. And it's incredible.
Yeah. Right. I like Catherine is referencing like um my reason for founding Revive is, that why that you're talking about, having such like a deep salient why is like what does keep you going. And also, I could hear your passion for what you do come through in the way that you describe it, which is really cool. Um,
Yeah.
and so a big part from what I understand about your approach to journaling is this concept of roses, buds, and thorns. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So either way you put it, the concept and the method was adapted from Boy Scouts of America. And they would go out in the field and they would write down their roses, so their highlights, things that made them really happy. They document their thorns, pitfalls, any shortcomings that they noticed, and then they would document their buds, so new ideas, opportunities, goals, and they would take this and come together in sort of a collective and share the knowledge that they gained out in the field. And doing this collaborative way of journaling and documenting experiences helps others, feel, like you're being supportive of them, that you're showing that empathy, you're showing up for them in a way that, is really special. So UX teams, UX is user experience, they use this method during their retrospective. So when they create designs, they'll hold a retrospective to reflect on it, to analyze it, to look at it closely. And this method allows a more holistic view of the project, documenting what went well, what didn't go well, and what we want to iterate on and improve on in the next version. So I got into that UX design a couple summers back at IBM. I was a UX designer and thought that this method was so cool and so unique that I could apply it to my own life and in journaling. So I, thought about that method when I was creating WellGrl and wanted to offer the community like a tangible journal that they could hold and use and, really benefit from. So I merged the two into a really beautiful Roses, Thorns, and Buds journal, and it's been impacting women beautifully since it started selling last year, and I'm so happy with it.
That's so cool. So can you give us some examples of like roses, buds, and thorns? Like what would some examples of those be?
Yeah, your rose, and we have a lot of resources on our Substack that support the community and these journaling activities. But a rose could be something that made you smile today, and a thorn could be something that you released, something that was really heavy that you released. And a bud could be something that you're excited about, something that you learned, or a new a goal that you might have forgotten and that you want to pick back up on. So doing journaling that way, really getting down to what's going well in my life, what's not, necessarily going well, and the things that I want to be better at, offers this holistic view of your day and your experiences. And you get to journal and document all of that and keep it as this record of your life so that you can witness this evolution of yourself.
Mm.
I've never seen anything like it. I feel like anytime I've seen journal prompts or like journals, I guess like journals like marketed towards people, it's always like uh like this one journal I had before, it was like 1 moment a day journal. So it was like focused on only the positive thing, like write down that positive thing that happened, or their gratitude journals. That's like, okay, let's just put the stuff that I'm grateful for in here. But it seems like exactly what you're saying. You're giving this like more holistic, well-rounded view of your day or your week or your month or however often somebody's doing this to really show like the reality.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But also not to have somebody sit in the suck too much, but also not have them like live in that toxic positivity land. It's like, hey, let's
Right.
bring it all together.
Right. And that's why the method ends with your buds. It ends on a positive note because we all know those thorns and doing that shadow work can be really, really hard. And so when you kind of pull up all of these emotions and some journal prompts that are geared to have you face and address the shadow side of yourself, it can leave you feeling kind of yucky at the end of the journaling because now you have all these negative emotions that you needed to bring up in order to fulfill the prompt. So now you're left in this negative space, kind of feeling weird about it. So I love that we end with the buds. Even though we got down to the negative emotions and we addressed them, we're gonna leave on a positive note and talk about something that's more hopeful and positive.
Mm.
I just want to pull from personal experience with journaling for a second. I needed to hear this really badly, maybe like 10 years ago, because, but also, I'll take it. I'll take it. I got it now, and this is important. Um, Anytime I've been that journaling person where like I just write down the really shitty stuff, and then I never come back to it, like because I think I've in somewhere in my subconscious I associated journaling with like something bad has happened, and now I must write about it instead of like making it this productive experience. And this is also like a little embarrassing, but like I have had journal entries after really like the after those really negative ones. I've gone when I've tried to go back to write something positive. I've always started with, okay, I'm only going to write positive things from now on, or okay, this is really different from that last time, and this is what what I'm about to say is really positive. Like I almost have to like preface it with like I'm a different person writing this than I was last time.
Mhm.
And even though I've gotten to those points of like writing a really positive experience I had, I'm still not coming back to it because it's not like ingrained in me enough to do that. I'm like very polarized.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, to add with that, from personal experience, do you know how many journals I've started? I have like 2 pages written and then stopped because I think
Yes.
I've seen it as like, oh, this is a place where I just like dump the shitty things that happen. And then it's like, ooh, I don't want to look back at that. Or it's triggering to look back at that. And I've had some clients where, the idea of journaling has come up and it's like, do I really wanna do it? Like, it feels so, overwhelming, and again, like, what do I do with this once I'm done? Or this feels really weird to have out there and, like, never pick up again. And so, you use the word polarizing, Catherine, and I think that is such a like, that's not, just you. Like, I think we see it as it needs to be either this is our gratitude journal, or this is our trauma dump journal, and, like, there's not a lot in between, but the productivity as well that you referenced, Catherine, I think is something that is really meaningful about what I'm hearing you say, Royce, is like it sounds like there is such an intentionality in what you're asking your like community to think about and reflect on. And then it sounds like there is a habit around like, let me go back and look at what this period of time was. And so I'd love to hear that too. Like,
Yeah.
what do you suggest, or what does your community do in terms of like revisiting their journal entries?
Yeah. My therapist just asked me recently, do I go back and reflect on my journal entries? And I told her I do.
Mhm.
Yeah. I look at my thorns because
Mhm.
I get to see how I overcame those difficult situations, and I build that confidence in myself that if I'm going through another difficult situation that I can get myself out of
Mm.
it and it's going to be okay. And I have proof because I documented, that difficult time in the past. So going back and reflecting on it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing. You can also reflect on your roses. You could reflect on the small wins and achievements, and just remind yourself when you're having a really bad day, like, hey, I celebrated that win a couple days ago, so
Mm.
my next win is right around the corner.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh God. And like from a CBT, a cognitive behavioral therapy perspective, right? Like so much of what we think about with our clients who are struggling with like a negative thought pattern, like they tend to get into that all or nothing place of like, this is so hard, I'm never going to get through it. And so like having, as you're saying, actual data to say like, hey, like remember that time, a few months ago where things felt really tough, like let's look at that and like look how far you came from that. Like having that data to support is helpful. And then again, with that black or white thinking, when we're going through a really difficult time, like, and I just had a period of life where things were really hard. It felt like everything is hard. And that's also not accurate, like to put like paint everything with that brush. And so also drawing attention to buds and roses also helps you have a greater perspective on like some things are really hard, but not everything is really hard right now.
Yeah. I love what you said about like not everything is hard right now. And I think a lot of times when we have a bad day, we just had bad moments in the day. And then we forget about those, happy moments. We forget about the moments that make us smile. So when we stop to reflect on that and to remember, oh, okay, I had a great cup of coffee or I had a great workout, that helps us practice and puts us in a better frame of mind and a better mindset to be more grateful for the things that, are going well in our life. And to know that, bad things may have happened, but it wasn't a bad day altogether.
Mhm. That perspective piece is
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
And so how often do you or do like some of the women that you work with like revisit their I find this part fascinating, like revisit their journal entries? Like is it like
I,
once a month? Is it every couple of months or once a year?
yeah. I revisit weekly at
Wow.
Sunday, so I'll go back and reflect on the entries for the week, but I suggest revisiting when it feels right, and you'll know when you wanna flip back. It can be a little intimidating to read past entries, especially those thorns, but I like to reflect back on them, and I like to cross them out. So if I overcame it, I'll cross it out,
Mm.
you know? And I like also what you said, it is exactly data. It's data from your life that is categorized in a way that helps you see and changes your perspective on your experience.
I think you might have converted me, Royce.
Well, good.
I was gonna say me too. However, the one thing that has always kept me from keeping up, okay, other than the negativity part that I mentioned, um, the one thing that's kept me from doing it is that like commitment that I kind of like make for myself. That's
Mhm.
like, okay, I'm gonna start this. I'm gonna do it every single day. I'm gonna do it morning. I'm gonna do it night. I'm gonna do it weekly. Like whatever like commitment it is at that time. I'm like, I'm in. I'm gonna do it, and then I never do it. So like,
Yeah,
how how does your method of journaling keep people doing it?
yeah,
Consistent.
yeah.
Yes.
Consistency is so important with journaling because that's how we see the benefits of it. And I think a lot of the times, staying consistent can be the hardest. Maybe getting started is a little difficult, but staying consistent is definitely, building that habit is challenging.
Mm.
So with collaborative journaling, the wonderful piece about this is that you get to do it with someone else. You get to have that accountability partner, similar to like going to the gym. You'll have a accountability partner. It's the same way with the collaborative journaling. You're not on this journey alone. You have your closest loved ones, your therapist to help you navigate what you're going through and help you on your wellness journey and being there with you. So, with habit stacking, I normally call my parents or my friends in the evening. So, I leverage that time that I'm already in that kind of self reflective, emotional kind of feeling. And I'll take out my journal, I'll take out my Roses, Thorns, and Buds journal, and I'll leverage that opportunity to document what's going on, how I'm feeling, what's being said in the conversation. And that's really helped me nurture that relationship with myself and with the people around me. And, I'll ask my friend, what was your rose of the day? And then that allows her to pause and reflect on what were the things that, went really well today and that, I may have forgotten. And then what are the thorns, and I want to support my friends in that moment too. So talking about those hard points of the day and being really empathetic and being really supportive and being an active listener and then encouraging them with their buds, the things that they're hopeful for, and being a positive support for that and encouragement.
That's really
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love that not only you're habit stacking to like do it for yourself, but you're like actively engaging other people that are important in your life. And it also sounds like you're just creating these deeper connections with them along the
Mhm.
way.
Absolutely. Because you're asking them questions that don't normally come up in conversation. Right? When you're talking to your friends, it can feel, one-sided or it can leave you feeling kind of, again, icky after the
Mhm.
conversation because it's like, I didn't get to voice my opinion. I didn't get to speak much because maybe they took over the conversation.
Mm.
So having this framework allows there to be a system and a process and an intentionality behind what we're talking about and
Mhm.
how can I show up for you? How can I be a better friend for you in this moment that I can support you with what you're going through?
Yeah. Well, I love it too because it gives such a framework for how to have deeper conversations. Like I as you were saying that I was thinking about um as one of my self-care treats I shared, I had dinner with two of my girlfriends who I haven't seen in a while. And like the question of like how are you comes up and it's like I don't even know how to answer that. Good, busy, fine. And then like the conversation devolves, and do we really get to connect on a deep level? And so like having just some language around like what's been your like your roses the last like few weeks, or your buds and your thorns, like that does give such a nice template and framework for connections.
Yeah.
And like adult friendships are also hard to maintain. So it is also like nice shorthand for like how to stay connected, and keep the closeness and intimacy within your friendships alive.
Right. This is perfect even for those long distance friendships where, you may have that distance being an issue, but the quality of the conversations, the depth and the supportive nature of those conversations doesn't need to be jeopardized because of distance. You can still have these conversations and having that shared language, right? Having that language of a rose, a thorn, a bud helps make it easier to be a friend. It makes it easier to show up as a friend because instead of it being this kind of conversation with no guardrails, you're having intentionality in the framework and asking the questions that they need.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really, really, really awesome. I'm already like my mind is just like swirling with ideas of like how to do this with my friends. I'm like at a totally different life stage or like season of life than a lot of my friends. And so I'm feeling extra disconnected from them at the time. Like pretty much none of them are married, none of them have kids, and I have both of those right now. um and and they don't live nearby. So I'm like thinking about the long distance thing that you talked about too. Like I'm feeling long distance, but I'm also feeling like distance. Um and I would love to kind of propose this idea to them. This would be
Yeah.
so nice.
Mhm.
I love this especially for mothers to support their children
Mm.
because the method is so simple that a child could voice, a rose, a thorn, a bud. The concept is simple and it's effective. But again, it's that shared language instead of saying, what are you dealing with or what's really hard for you right now? What's a thorn? What's a bud? What's a rose? And now you're getting your children to talk and to communicate. And this is a great, dinner table, activity instead of being on your phones or there being moments of silence. Being open and sharing what happened during the day in this framework creates a beautiful conversation for the family.
Mm. Well, and with kids too, I imagine like it also models and normalizes like hard things do happen in your day, and that's okay. And good things happen. Let's pay attention to them and celebrate them. And like we can be excited about things. So I think it also just normalizes the idea again, like trying to get rid of that all or nothing mindset, that is so like so inherent in our society. I'm thinking about it too, from a big part of what we do at Revive outside of just therapy and counseling is we are like a training site for developing therapists, and they are riddled with like all or nothing thinking, and perfectionism is so steep. And so this is again another way like we frame it in risks we took this week and wins we took, but like that doesn't always capture, because sometimes they'll say like, "Oh, my risk and my win are the same," and it's like, okay, we're missing the point a little bit. So it's helpful to have like a different, again, shared language or framework. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm hearing you say that like a big part of staying consistent with it is like bringing people into your life, and kind of having these conversations. In terms of just like getting started, it sounds like habit stacking is a piece. Any other suggestions for how people can get started?
Yes. So starting small is going to be your key to journaling. If you're new to journaling, maybe looking at a blank page is very intimidating. And so I suggest maybe start with a sticky note, start with a small surface area to just
Mhm.
get you started with writing. And then I like to say, just write one word, right? Write one word to describe your day. And then after, time and after those reps of writing and getting yourself used to journaling, you'll build up that confidence and you'll start to, dive deeper in and be more explorative in your journaling pursuit. But starting small, choosing a good time is important too. Mornings, evenings, afternoons, finding a time that works for you and that you can commit to long term, but know that you can change things up. Journaling is really dynamic and it changes as you change. So if something's not working, change it up. If the method's not working, change it up. You need to stay flexible in this to stay consistent. Otherwise, it can get really repetitive and feel like a chore. Create a ritual around it. I love to burn a candle or make tea, have my blanket, something that makes it feel like I'm setting the stage and I'm setting the intention to journal is really important. Realistic goals. Like I said, if you're new to journaling, buying a blank journal is probably not the best way to start first. It is to, maybe say I'm going to journal every day at this time and I'm going to journal about this thing and it's only going to be for maybe 5-10 minutes, but I'm setting these realistic goals that I can stay committed to. And then over time, I know that it's going to build up to this, kind of advanced journal habit. Mix it up and reflect on your benefits. So mixing it up is important. Again, it shouldn't feel like a chore. When you journal, it should feel like you're coming to the page with an open heart, with bravery, with honesty, with human realness. So if it doesn't feel like that, mix it up. And then reflecting on your benefits. I think a lot of the times when we want to start journaling, but we don't know what are we getting out of it? What's my transformation going to be? And that's truly up to you. It's whatever you set, whatever your why is for journaling, staying committed to your why and staying committed to the transformation is going to keep you consistent.
What would be an example of like a why or a transformation?
Yeah. My why for journaling was mainly wanting to be brave and wanting to face myself in a real, like, authentic way. And a lot of the times it wasn't that I didn't know how to journal or I didn't know what to journal about. It was I was needing to face myself in such an honest way and to be upfront and close with these emotions and these really, really painful moments of my life that I did not want to write down because if I thought that when I wrote them down, it would make them real. They were solid, they were permanent. And if I kept it in my mind, it would go away. It's just a thought, it's an idea. So coming to the page and being honest with myself was the obstacle. That was the hurdle for me. So that was a transformation. I wanted to be brave. I wanted to be honest with myself so then I could be honest with others.
Wow. That's, very, very powerful. And also, so I also just want to normalize that too. We see that a lot in, like, on the therapy side of things where, like, the idea of coming to therapy and, like, speaking your experiences or speaking about the thoughts in your head or the feelings on your heart can feel like, oh my gosh, if I put this out there, what does it mean? And what am I going to have to do with it once it's out there? And so that definitely does keep people from being vulnerable in therapy. So that what you're saying definitely resonates with me. And it sounds like you've grown more courageous through
Yeah,
your experience.
absolutely. It's through journaling and through weekly therapy that I've gained this confidence in myself that I did not have before. This confidence of, I can talk about my emotions. I can talk about them with my therapist. I can be honest because if I'm not being honest with myself, she can't help and support me if I'm not being honest.
Mm.
So she reminds me, are you being honest? And I'll take a moment. And usually it's like, no, let me try that again. you know?
That's like every session where I were to start out with, how are you? And I'm asking, like, how are you? Not just the passing you on the street kind of, how are you? And if my client answers with like, oh, I'm good, like, how are you? Or I'm good. Oh, wait, actually, I'm not. Like, hang on. That is like the epitome of like honesty is when they actually answer it with, okay, I know what you're actually asking me right now.
Yeah. It's not this passing nicety or this gesture of saying, I'm great, everything's great. And it's like, are things really great? And then you start, again, that honesty, that bravery to speak up on those things comes out. And the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. It's like a muscle, right? This honesty of being honest with yourself. Because there's nothing shameful about having a bad experience. We all have them, but we can't hide and pretend like they didn't happen or they don't exist, because that's just going to cause us even more turmoil inside our bodies. So the more, the better we get at like releasing it and being honest and letting it go and sharing it, we'll feel a lot better, and then we'll help other people be brave as well, because we were brave enough to speak about what we're going through.
Yeah. Like
I
yeah, it is so true and so powerful. It's just so immensely powerful. I know I keep using that word, but it really, really is. Yeah, gosh. Um, in terms of your therapy, like how much does your journal come into therapy? Like, is that something that you share with your therapist, or is it just that you build on like what in your own journaling experience and insights gained there, and you bring like those ideas to therapy, or is it a mix of the two?
Yeah. So my therapist knows about WellGrl. She knows about the journal. So I like to use the journal as like a starting point in therapy. So how are you? I'll answer honestly, and then I'll bring out my journal to remind myself to talk about certain things, right? Because I might have forgotten that I wanted to bring up a certain topic or a person or a moment. And so when I bring my journal, I can reflect back and say, oh, okay, I want to bring up this situation that happened on this day, but this was a rose, and it's categorized and it's organized. So I feel like the conversation's effective in that way. We don't have a lot of time in therapy, so it's really important that the conversation is human and raw and real, but it's also focused, right? And it's also contained and it's also controlled, and that we're having a really effective, positive conversation, so that my therapist can help me best. She can best support me when I'm together, when I'm organized, when I'm like, here's what I am dealing with.
Mm,
This is what I need support with. Can you help me? And then she'll help me. And then, but it's this sharing of this framework and bringing this into the journaling practice. So it's that. And then it's also, I get journal prompts, or I'll get homework, she'll call it, of, write about this moment, or, have write like a script for how you'd have this conversation with this person. That was a recent thing. I, you know, have difficulty sometimes talking up and speaking up for myself in the moment. And it's because of, shyness and things, social anxiety. So being able to like write out how that conversation will go, and being able to kind of practice and rehearse that, allows me to have those conversations so much better, because I've taken the time to craft out what I want to say, and that it's
mm,
coming from a place of like pure and honesty, and my emotions are processed, and I'm not just having a conversation to have it. I'm
mm.
having it to make a change, to do something different, to create a boundary. Yeah.
Sounds like an excellent client.
I was just gonna say that.
But so much of the work in healing happens outside of the therapy room, and it sounds
Yeah.
like you take that very seriously. I know we're ending our time here, but you told us at the beginning that you started WellGrl just based on your own experiences and essentially your pursuit to live a more like well life.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's being achieved? Like, do you feel like you're doing it?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Starting journaling has been the most impactful thing in my life, because every day I get to be honest with myself. Every day I get to sit down and pause and create this book of my life that I get to reflect on, and have all these documented moments of how I've been brave, how I showed up for myself, how I showed up for others. And it's incredible to have this piece of, of my life, you know, within the pages of the safety of the non-judgmental space of my journal, and having that with me is, yeah, it's incredible.
Um, so before we end today, I have some like logistical questions about Well Girl slash your journal. So is it a physical journal?
Yes, the
Okay.
Roses, Thorns, and Buds is a physical journal.
Okay.
You can purchase it if you go to our Instagram at WellGrl. It's linked in our bio.
Great. And is there by any chance like a PDF or like a downloadable version too? Asking
Not
for me.
yet, not yet. We're coming
Okay.
out with one, so be on the lookout.
Okay. Okay. Great. And remind our listeners where they can find you again, Instagram, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at WellGrl, and the link to our Substack blog with all our resources, journal prompts, affirmations, quotes are there, and our Amazon link to buy the journal is also there.
Cool. Well, I will be immediately adding to cart once we end here. And we'll make sure to add all of your info in our show notes as well. But thank you so much for being here, Royce. I feel so inspired and like ready to
Yeah,
do this thing.
You have 2 journal converts over here.
awesome. I love that. This conversation has been so great. Thank you for having me.
No, of
Thank you.
course. Thank you so much. And
Yeah,
yeah, I'd love to also stay in touch as well and see
absolutely.
how we might like continue to have these kinds of conversations.
Absolutely. I love that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you again to Royce from WellGrl for being here with us today. Definitely so inspiring, and we look forward to chatting with her more in the future. So definitely stay tuned for more collaboration with WellGrl. That wraps us up for today. But until next week, you can follow along with us at Revive CFW. You can follow Catherine at Catherine Van Eyck, me at Amy Albero LCSW. You can send your emails to wishingyouwell@revivecfw.com. You can also follow along with our other podcast, Reactivity TV, which is where my husband and I talk about reality TV and give all the opinions. And we're talking about Joey's season of The Bachelor, season 28. So go check that out on our YouTube channel. You can also watch this entire interview with Royce on YouTube as well. So go give us a follow, a subscribe over there. We would really appreciate it. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe and share this episode as well if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Until next time, we are wishing you well.